The only person who's not allowed to try to put a nickname on me is Mr. Carton.
Oh yeah, no, you don't want that.
No.
Has he attempted to try a couple of times?
He has a few times, and we've had stern words behind the scenes.
Maple syrup dripping from his fake robe. Who did he see when he heard who was there? Now it seems that he should.
All right, everybody, welcome out to the Log Room. It is Tuesday, March 16th, 2021. Jersey Johnny coming at you, and with me, as always, is none other than Mr. Beer Samurai. Say hello, Mr. Samurai.
Hey guys, and let's see, it's happy, was it Lemons and Oranges Day or Oranges and Lemons? What'd I tell you?
I think it's Oranges and Lemons Day. There you go.
Orange
National
lemon.
Oranges and Lemons Day. There you
And
go.
since we start every show with me eating something, I'm going to pull the lemon out of my water.
I thought you were going to pull it out of somewhere else.
Hold on.
It's a nice martini glass for water.
Yeah, water.
All right.
Actually, we were supposed to start the show with me drinking a lemon drop,
Yes.
but I'm still in the process of unpacking. I have no idea where my shaker is. I never filled the ice cube trays, so
But of course, you have to eat something because there's no other way to start a show for you other than eating.
yeah. And we'll start with the lemon.
Yeah.
That'll be great.
always
But that's
good
only half of it, right? The
That
other
is
half
only
is
half.
oranges.
The other half is oranges. Yeah.
Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually I'm going to open my beer right off the bat, because John,
What?
it's also No Selfies Day.
Oh crap!
Put the phone down.
Sorry, I forgot. I'm sorry.
Yeah. But you know what? It's also you can't do everything you do is right day. So
I couldn't. Yeah.
maybe
so no
they
selfies
wash.
day, but if I'm taking a selfie, then it's right. If it's
That's right. So it's a wash.
kind of weird. It is a wash. There you go.
Oh.
But,
But everything you do is right, like me pouring a stout into a stemless wine glass.
pour stout into a stemless wine glass. Now, why is that stout, by chance, have anything to do with oranges?
Because it is Czig Meister's Orange and Madagascar Vanilla Stout. Not just any vanilla.
Madagascar vanilla.
That island that sits off the side of Africa.
Not Tahitian vanilla.
Not Tahitian vanilla. It is Madagascar because it goes
Not
better
Hoboken
with
vanilla.
orange. Oh, that might be something else.
I don't want to know. Yeah.
But so I'm going to start off. With the Czig Meister here. This is a 10%.
Why are you starting off with Czig Meister?
Maybe because we've got someone sitting in the background waiting to come on, named Matt Czigler.
Or maybe just Zig. There you go.
Zig.
All right,
There he
he
is.
Welcome to the show, everybody. Matt Czigler, the owner and Mr. Brewmaster of Czig Meister Brewing in Hackettstown, New Jersey.
Matt, that's
There
delicious.
you go.
Thank you.
Oh, that is delicious.
Before we get started with Matt, when Matt opens his beer and I open my beer, it's also
I'll be done with it by
Happy
the
St.
time you
Patrick's
guys
Day
are
Eve.
Oh, yes, it is.
It is St. Patrick's Day Eve. Hence my Tullamore Dew shirt and the shamrock and the logo. And why the hell not, right?
And I'm wearing a green shirt.
So and corned beef is boiling downstairs. As soon as this is over, I'll be enjoying some of that. But Matt, what before we get started, what are you drinking?
So I'm going to be drinking, starting off with Huntsman Kolsch, one of my own. Nice, light, easy drinker.
There you go.
Thought I'd start off light, work my way up.
Work your way up there. Why not? Absolutely.
Yeah, I started
Sounds like-
heavy. I'm staying heavy.
There you go. So pour that bad boy. I will open mine. I will be also drinking a Czig Meister beer, the Lawman's Sweet Justice.
Okay, so cinnamon peach Heffa, huh?
It's a cinnamon peach Hefeweizen.
So Matt, where did the idea to go do a cinnamon peach Hefeweizen come from?
We just play around with a bunch of different recipes. So we started off for the summer. We had a regular Hefeweizen, and we had a couple kegs left over. And the guys were like, we really want to push into our next seasonal, get ready for Oktoberfest. Can we do something with these kegs of Hefeweizen to, change them up a little bit and do something? So we took 2 kegs at the time, moved them back over. We have these what look like kegs, but they're yeast brinks, and we put them under pressure, slowly transfer the beer back into them, and we put in peaches and cinnamon, we had tried a couple other fruit variants and stuff, but that's the one that seemed to stick with most of the people. So the next year around, made a whole big batch of it, popped it into some cans. But it's, always just playing with recipes, seeing what flavors stick, throw everything at the wall.
Now, which cinnamon? Ceylon, Vietnamese?
That one's Ceylon cinnamon.
I'm only saying because we got the Madagascar vanilla in here.
Ceylon, Vietnamese, McCormick's. What is it?
McCormick's. That's a straight up kasha.
There we go.
At any rate,
it wasn't a selfie. It wasn't a selfie. I was just taking the cursory untapped picture. So.
Oh no! We've established there. So Wash, you can take selfies if you like.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Or should I say, slancha?
Definitely slancha. This is going down too fast.
No, that's really good. Yeah, cinnamon plays really nice with the peach too. It's pretty tasty. How's that Kolsch? The Huntsman's. I love Huntsman. That's a good. It's a good, clean, crisp Kolsch. It's nice.
Yeah, like I said earlier, this is gonna probably go down a little too quick, like you're saying. This.
Oh yeah.
You're in good company for that.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah.
So it's fine. It's all good. Why don't we jump right into it? Where you got an interesting story, backstory, if you will. We'll start out with let's go all the way back to the first time you homebrewed. I think
like a superhero origin story.
Okay.
There you go. Why not? Well, I get the screen wavy, and we can go back. Back yeah. Where's Wayne and Garth when you need them? But I digress. Yeah, I know. It's the first one. It's the only one I'm going to do. I'm sorry.
That's Tom's line.
That had to be said.
You owe him $20. I think.
I owe him $20. Yeah. That's it. So anyway, so what was when was the first time you homebrewed? I was like, your father homebrewed too, right?
Yeah. So technically, I guess you could say the first time I homebrewed was probably with him, not realizing what he was doing in his basement of house back in Pine Brook back in the early 90s, probably like 93, 94.
Gotcha.
Out of some random plastic buckets in the basement and some hoses going everywhere and whatnot. But
what were you, 5?
I was 7.
That was close. Real close.
6.5. No.
I was married.
I was getting double AARP envelopes already.
Yeah, well, you are that old. So anyway, but go ahead. Continue, please.
My first time, I guess actually homebrewing for myself was right after college. So that would have been the spring of 2010.
Okay.
I had gotten back up, was living back with my parents, and was applying for jobs everywhere. And at the time, just because of the recession, lab jobs that needed people with a bachelor's degree were getting overrun with people with master's degrees because they needed jobs as well. So I wasn't getting any call back from anything.
Right.
Probably sent out like 100 applications or whatever. But their loss is our gain now because that caused me to get into homebrewing. And
thank you.
Picked up friends of mine had homebrewed probably in college, but I never had done anything with them in any of those batches. And I said, if they could do it with me and my science degrees, I could definitely do this. So looked online, read through a bunch of different stuff, and did just an extract recipe over at my grandmother's house. She lived not too far from my parents. And batch came out pretty good. So afterwards, I had read everywhere that everyone was talking about, you got to go right over to all grain. You can play around with the recipes a little bit more. So I switched right on over, bought a couple more pieces of equipment, wrote up my first recipe, and it's actually the same recipe that we use for the amber ale is the recipe that I wrote for my first all grain recipe. And I had homebrewed for, at that point, probably about 6-7 months before I decided that, I really like writing up recipes, doing these brews. I had eventually gotten a job, but found myself on the side just writing recipes all the time and being more interested in coming home and doing a beer down in the basement or doing something over the weekend with making another beer and stuff like that I said, how can I turn this into a profession? and saw or had looked online for a bunch of different stuff and saw Siebel Institute for beer classes and beer schooling, and sent them over a note being like, hey, how do I apply for this? And the biggest thing for Siebel is that they had typically only ever accepted people if they had worked in the beer industry before, because they're more about educating people that are in the beer industry to get higher up into like head brewing positions, stuff like that.
Sure.
And I said, well, I come from a heavier science background, because their worry was that, with the science side and the brewing side, that I wouldn't be able to grasp it all. But they said, if you have the science background, you'll probably be able to understand the brewing stuff, because you won't be concentrating as heavily on the science side. But they said, in order to do that first, though, here's the book that we're going to be learning from. Read it, and then in a month or so, take a test. If you pass the test, we'll allow you in. And our class was only, they only let like 20, 25 people in to the class at a time. And I was able to get in that year. And right after our semester, semester's class was when Siebel Institute booked up for 3 or 4 years straight, because the craft beer had. So it was perfect timing and everything for me to kind of fit my way right into that class. And definitely learned a ton over there. A lot of stuff that I didn't realize about the beer industry. Definitely naive on a lot of things back then. But
now, were you just in Chicago, or did you go over to Munich too?
No, I went over to Munich as well. So it was the 7-week course over in Chicago, and then about 5 or 6 weeks over in Munich, Germany. And it's mostly the book learning side over in Chicago, and then over in Germany you have the more hands-on technical piece. You're learning with teachers that have PhDs in beer foam stability.
A PhD specifically in beer foam stability.
Beer foam stability. Another one.
I did my doctoral dissertation on lacing.
Yes, exactly. Another one of the professors there had done his doctorate on gushing in beer. Like, you pop it open, some of them gush, some of them don't.
Oh, okay. Thanks for clarifying.
Yes, that's why I specified something completely unrelated to beer. No.
Just in case there was anybody out there that wasn't quite sure what you meant by that.
That would be an interesting dissertation.
It is Germany, because anything's possible. So.
It's
but
hot.
Apparently, after
it's all hot.
After 5 years of doing his research on figuring out what causes beer gushing, he's like, "Yeah, in the end of the day, we don't know." And I'm like, for 5 years.
5 years of research to say,
Yeah, but I guess when you're doing stuff on beer, you're allowed to at the end of the day, we don't know.
Now, is that because there is? Is that because there is no real answer, or is that because he drank a little too much beer while he was doing the research?
I never took notes.
Never got to finish his conclusion part.
Right. Oh, you gotta love it. Oh, it's perfect. All right, so you finish up the schooling and you come back to the States and you're all set to go. You went up to New York first, upstate, right?
Yep, threw out applications kind of all over the place. I wasn't really felt tied down to the East Coast or anything like that. I put applications out to Montana, Wyoming, California, even outside the country.
Why not? Yeah.
But my first callback happened to be from Adirondack Pub and Brewery up in George, and my grandparents lived 20 minutes away from there. So I drove up pretty much the next day that they were called, like, "Hey, when can you interview?" Drove right on up, interviewed over there, and on my drive back home, they called me up and gave me the position. So I called.
So turned around and went back.
Yeah, so I pretty much called my grandparents right there, and like, "Hey, is it cool if I move into your place Monday? It's Friday right now." And they're like, "Yeah, sure, no problem."
So you brewed back in that shack at the back of the parking lot, huh?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Before they decided to expand it to I was actually there the year before they grew it out to the bigger 10,000 square foot 2-floor building that they have now attached to the side. Which probably gave me so much experience in the brewing side of it, because I had to be able to brew sterilely in a unbelievably disgusting construction condition.
And I have no idea how they shoehorned that into that space.
When I was probably there for 2 or 3 months, and he changed out some of his 15 barrels tanks inside the small shack into these 60 barrel tanks, and then switched them over to hundreds not too long after that. So it was getting these things through, tipping them all the way up, and it was the craziest thing.
Pivot.
Yes, exactly.
Like you're inches away from other tanks, and you're just like, it was absolutely insane.
I gotta love that though. It's like a puzzle piece, just putting it together.
Playing Tetris.
Yeah,
In 3D. Yeah.
3D brewing Tetris.
Yeah.
But so you were up there for about a year, right?
Yeah, I was up there almost exactly a year. Did a lot of recipe formulation. Helped me a ton. But then during that time, my parents had started up a horse farm in Blairstown.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was up in Adirondack, I was still driving down every weekend to help them build fencing around all their paddocks.
Right.
So I got sick and tired of driving up and down every weekend, listening to books on tape and podcasts and everything like that.
What's wrong with podcasts?
What's wrong with podcasts? Seriously.
No, nothing's wrong with podcasts. But I said I had to get a job closer to my parents' house. So I'm going to be doing this every weekend. So at the time, Kane had been looking for a new head brewer because their previous head brewer walked out on him. And I called up, got an interview over there one weekend, and was offered the job not too long after that, and started right up, moved down into the Long Branch area, and
I was going to say, up in Blairstown during the summer, your commute to Ocean is probably just as long as to Lake Placid.
Yeah, that's why I definitely got a little apartment with a friend of mine over in West Long Branch, and not too far of a commute from that.
No, yeah.
No, that's a lot better.
Yeah.
Push down 35 and you're there in 10 minutes. Maybe.
Yeah, and you're going away from the beaches, so not too bad.
So, but so yeah, talk about that a little bit. How was some of the things you brewed over there?
I mean, it was a very different thing because I had gone from working at a very traditional brewery. They were doing alt beers and blondes and some imperial stouts and stuff, to working over at Kane, where he was trying to push himself from the start as this IPA Belgian style brewery. And so I came in with a good knowledge of malts and how they work together in the mash and the flavors you get at the end, and working with Mike, who had a very vast knowledge of kind of the way the hops worked with everything from how he's played around with hops before. So he was kind of the hop side of it. I was the malt side on changing up some of the recipes, but head high, overhead, single fin, and a couple of the other seasonals and stuff that he had were, recipes that he just gave over to me, said, brew these, make them the exact same way that I've had them before. Brewed like 2 or 3 batches of each. And then he's like, okay, I think you're good. You take over everything. I'm going to do the before. Had one guy I was working with down there, Travis, and the two of us would just, bust through, making batches left and right. 90% of it, or I guess like 70-80% of it was probably head high all the time.
Right.
And because it was flying out like crazy. But, it was, everybody loved the beer, and it was going out so fast that you're putting, 3-4 high stacks of kegs into the back of this small cooler, trying to rotate everything through. Get everything onto this delivery truck in the morning. Delivery guy's got 20 stops. He's, out at 7 in the morning, gets back at 7 in the evening. And then it's right at the time too when tasting rooms were just started to be able to open up. So at the end of every shift, you got to clear everything out of the brewery section there because you're going to have people out there drinking. So it was a very different kind of animal with stuff going through. And then probably like 6 months into it, we decided to start putting together a lot more pilot batches and playing around the pilot system and, just creating a lot of these different recipes. And most of them were for more of playing around with potential types of beers down the road. Some of the first pilot batches were like single hop versions of head high or overhead. And then it went into playing around with recipes that eventually became Morning Bell or Anteed. And then on the other end of it, he got these 7-barrel tanks through that we popped onto pallets and just moved around all over the place. He kind of hid those in the back corner when he decided to play with his Brett beers at the start of the stuff. And that's where things like Apiary with Brett or some of the others kind of came through. It's just, put a beer in there, talk to Al from
East Coast Yeast.
East Coast Yeast there, and just throw that 7-barrel in the back corner for like 6 months. And of course, when we decided to do this, it wasn't the best time. It was like going over winter. Stuff's not starting to ferment yet, so we're all going in the back, hugging the tank to warm it up, wrapping it up with blanket. But by the time the spring came around, it was all fermented out, and would bottle it up, and it was great stuff. So it was a lot of experimentation, a lot of fun playing around with new types of beer.
There you go. Matt Potensky just said he remembers using the wooden Thor's hammer to crush coriander for a batch of cloud cover.
Oh man, that was we had no mortar and pestle. We had nothing, and Mike just had this wooden hammer that he was going to use to tap some casks. And I'm looking around like, how are we going to crush these coriander seeds? Because you can't just put them in whole. We're never going to get anything done with it. So we're just sitting there on a table with these mesh bags full of coriander, just smashing them with this hammer table, and everything's bouncing all over the place. We're like, I think we're going to be just like 10, 15 minutes of smashing these things.
I gotta love it. Sea change, he said.
That was a killer beer.
Yeah. That's funny. Well, so you did that for a couple of years, and then lo and behold, you needed your own place. So what was the was that a plan all along? Were you
it
like
was
from day one? I'm open. Eventually, I'm going to have my own place, kind of thing, or?
I think that's the way I kind of kept my dad sane about the decision to switch over from, his thought I was going to be this medical genius, 3 degrees in science, going to med school and everything like that, to decide, hey, I want to brew beer. Was I told him, I got a plan, don't worry. And for the beginning, my hope was, to eventually open up. And it was always in the back of my head, always just telling myself, I got to learn from everywhere I'm doing, keep reading up on a bunch of different things. And after working a lot over at Kane, I had been putting a business plan together in the back. And I said, I think now's the perfect time. It's in between that time where it's like, I know what I'm doing, and now's the time to strike for it. And it's like, there's other stuff that I still got to learn. But if I don't hit it right now, I'm not sure if I'm going to hit everything at the right time.
Right.
How much support did you get from Mike and others?
They were definitely supportive. I walked into the office after kind of deciding that that's the day I'm going to go over there and tell them, hey, here's my 2 weeks or whatever. And Mike was like, I had a feeling that you weren't working that hard in the back there just for the money that we were paying you. There must have been something else going on. But I told him, anything that he needed in the time period, it's like, don't take 2 weeks as a 2 weeks. If you need me for 2 months to find somebody else, let me know the time that you need. I'm just going to be slowly transitioning into opening this place up. So it took about 2.5 months for him to pull or to find a person good enough to kind of switch over into the position of head brewer. And even after that transition, it was about, I think, 8 or 9 months later after that person came through that they left. And then their assistant brewer took over as head brewer, and Mike gave me a call. And he's like, hey, I think you can come down for a day or two just to make sure that this guy knows everything that's going on with the system, because, Mike isn't really out there on the system all the time. He just wants to make sure it's working through. So I said, yeah, sure, no problem. Went down over there. I only ended up spending a day because the guy already knew everything that was going on. It was just more of a confirmation sort of thing. Right. But they were good to go. So, no bad blood, no issues, no nothing.
Now, talk about, you've got one of my favorite spaces in New Jersey for a brewery. Mm-hmm. Talk about the space a little bit, because that place is amazing.
Thank you.
I love it.
That was another big fight with a few people to get that space.
Absolutely.
So in order to even pick Hackettstown at first, we kind of started off at the simple side of it and said, what do we want from a location? And my first thought was, well, I need city water, city gas, and city water, natural gas, and sewer. So we kind of looked around the area. I wanted to stay, at that point, I kind of locked myself into North Jersey. I said, I kind of want to stay up over here. And I looked at a few different towns that kind of hit that criteria, and then went into the towns and talked to, you know, whether it be the zoning board or zoning officiants, or in Hackettstown, they have their bid. I went and talked with the bid director to see if the town wanted a brewery, or if they were looking for something like a brewery in town.
A brewery.
Yes.
Hey, yeah.
I found this out later, but not that I would change. Not that I would have changed anything. But went in there and they were like, "Yes, we definitely want a brewery in town. How solid are you on this idea?" And I'm like, you know, I got a whole business plan and everything. I got backers, and you know, we're ready to move. I'm just looking for kind of a location. Wanted to get a feel for a town. And they're like, cool, so you have time this afternoon to drive around town, look at open buildings right now then, and see what potentially you could go into? I said, sure. So the bid director at the time drove me around town, looked at a bunch of different commercial buildings, and then that afternoon we sat down and chatted with the mayor about, you know, putting a brewery into town and everything like that. So I was kind of like, damn, if this place really wants
This
a
is
brewery
moving
that bad,
quickly.
So, yeah, really.
and it's
Were
got
you
a
open the
downtown-
next hour? Or
Yeah.
you know?
Put my money down on that building.
You were brewing beer by that evening.
So I was pretty solid on Hackettstown at that point. And we didn't pick a building right then and there, obviously, but, you know, went around looking at a bunch of different spaces. A couple of the ones that I was originally thinking on, they passed through because someone else either took them up first or something. But then when I found 106 Valentine Street,
Write it down, folks.
yeah, we went in originally expecting to, or hoping to buy it outright, and we talked to the owner of the building, and we went back to the banks, and they're like, yeah, it's going to be a little too much if you want to buy it. Why don't you go back and see if they're willing to rent it? So at this point, you know, with the speed of business, it had taken like 2 months to get everything and going through to figure out exactly what was going to be happening. So I went back over to the building owner, and he was saying, well, actually, because we hadn't heard from you in a little bit, we kind of already have a deal going through to sell the building to somebody else. But don't worry, he's just a developer and would definitely be interested in renting it to you. So I'm like, okay, I guess give me his info and I'll go there and chat with him. So I meet up with him, and we had, you know, hit it off pretty well in that, you know, he was definitely down to rent us the building. We got a good price for it. He's like, yeah, absolutely. You guys can do whatever you want to this place. Really excited about it. But you can't do anything until I actually file the paper or finish the paperwork to buy the building. I'm like, okay, so when are you expecting that? He's like, 2 months. Don't worry about it. I'm like, okay, well, that 2 months turned into issue. Somebody else did whatever. It's a year and a half later. And we pretty much, you know, put little deals behind the back to other people and whatever, pretty much trying to put the chokehold on this guy and be like, I know that it's you that's holding this thing up. You're blaming everybody else. The owner of the building went back over to him. It was pretty much like, you got 72 hours to buy this building or you're done, and I'm going to rent it over to Matt. And at 7:00 at night on that third day, he signed the paperwork to buy the building, and we were able to get there and start doing it. So I think that if we never like really pushed him forward on all that stuff, that
He'd still be
we
waiting.
might not have been able to get into it. But we were, you know, obviously sitting there on our hands, not able to do anything for a year and a half was, you know, not the best thing in the world. But I kept convincing all of our family, friend investors and everything that, you know, this is the building that we want. Don't force me away.
There's a reason we're waiting.
Don't push me away. My dad's looking at other buildings. I got, you know, other people telling me it's like, just cut bait, go look somewhere else. I'm like, no. We need this space. We're right next to Main Street. It's a beautiful spot. Trust me, we're going to make this really good.
And this was the garage for a car dealership?
Yeah, this was the garage for a Ford dealership in Hackettstown. What is now the Dollar General building next door was their showroom and offices. The whole inside was painted with this thick white paint. There was fire retardant insulation all through the ceiling. Everything was kind of crapped up and painted weird colors, falling apart. But I kind of had this vision about what exactly I wanted this place to be. And when we, finally got in there and started to change things around, people started actually seeing it's like, oh, maybe he kind of knows what he's talking about over here. He's not a crazy kid that we gave money to.
That's always the risk.
Yeah, right.
It was my dad speaking. So, but at the end of the day, it definitely was worth the wait for everything. I mean, between what we were able to do on the indoor space, between the brick and the metal piping and bringing in a lot of the woodwork, to just having the extra parking outside for being able to now expand through for a whole beer garden. I mean, we got almost 10,000 square feet of beer garden space outside.
It's beautiful.
Which during COVID, I'm sure came in quite handy.
Extremely helpful. And then,
I think I was there a few times during that, and I got to say, your staff was very, very diligent.
That's we get both sides of it, and I'm very much on the side of if you got to go scream at them and do whatever because we're in the middle of a pandemic. If they want to drink beer, hey, too bad on you if you don't want to wear a mask. But it definitely got to the point where our tasting room manager Bree was on her wit's end there with some people, and I because right now I live 5 blocks down the road from the brewery, so I'd walk over there and reassure her. It's like, please don't quit. Some people just suck.
Yeah. Slightly.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
A little more than some, but yeah.
Yeah, some more than others. But so I mean, we were just there. Well, was it 3 weeks ago? I was up by you.
Yeah, 2 or 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, I was, and that was the beers are just ridiculous, but the space is just beautiful. And then and even that day there was only. I think it was a Thursday anyway, but there was everybody that was in there was doing their thing. They put their masks on when they had to get up and walk around, bathroom, in, out, whatever, and everybody pretty much had it down. I mean, it wasn't but and there wasn't like it was just us and one other person in there. It was doing the I think it had just gone to 35% at that point, right? Yeah, something like that. But yeah, well, I mean, so many good times up there, thus far, and a few of them I was just gonna mention. Your big event in February every year. How'd you your love of stouts? I mean, what was the passion behind having Stout Fest?
So, I just love making variety of beer. I feel like there are making recipes is kind of an infinite sort of thing. And all these little tweaks and changes of tasting different stuff. And actually, I feel like it started back when I was working in Kane. And Mike had wanted to do a hop festival around all of the different, around kind of, the fact that he was trying to be a IPA and Belgian style stuff, kind of promote the IPA side. And I said, why don't we do the head high recipe, and we'll do it on the pilot system, and we'll do just a bunch of single hop variants of head high. And he's like, this is awesome. How many styles do you think? I said, well, we're like 2-3 months away. How many carboys can you bring in? And I'll, clear the stuff up in the back, and I probably can schedule through enough to make, somewhere between 12 to 18 different variations of head high if you want to. So we ended up being able to get through, I think, 12, and 9 of them were single hop variants of head high, and the others were just different IPAs. We did a red IPA, a black IPA, and something else. Maybe it was a Belgian IPA. And it kind of just, it educated all the people coming through that, one IPA isn't the same as another IPA, isn't the same as another IPA. Sure. The hop flavors, when you put the stuff through and everything, is going to be so crucial in making your recipe and finalizing it and getting the flavors that you want in the end. And I think, to me, too, it kind of solidified. It's like, anybody can make any recipe they want to. It's going to be on the water. It's going to be on the brew. It's going to be on the ingredients. You can have the same recipe brewed at Kane as you do over at Carton, as you do over at Zig, as you do over anywhere. Right. And it's going to have its own different nuances because the brewers are also going to be different on making it. And that kind of just stuck with me through opening up my place and saying, I want to show the depth of each style that went through. And I wanted to do the same with stouts. I want to do the same with the variety of imperial beers. I want to do the same thing that we did at Kane with hops, and did a hop festival as well in fall. But I think that was kind of the big thing. And stouts just kind of hit through because the difference on the stout side is more what the flavors from the stout work with. And once I said, why don't I do a chocolate stout, a vanilla stout, a chocolate vanilla stout, different types of vanilla. That's why we have Madagascar vanilla specifically on that thing, because we did Tahitian, we did Mexican, we did Madagascar.
Not Hoboken.
Yeah,
No
no Hoboken vanilla.
No Hoboken vanilla.
We specifically kept that down at the side. And we did orange vanilla, we did chocolate vanilla, we did chocolate banana, we did vanilla banana, and we just realized it's like, well, I'm writing down this list of things we could do. I'm like, I could, if I have enough time before Stout Fest comes around, I could do 50 beers. And I think the first year we did it was like 45. And then I'm like, everybody loved, and we sold out everything in 2 days over the 2 day weekend.
I'd have to Uber to that.
Yes. I mean, at the time, what we had, because I listed all the different beers that we were going to be doing, what people did was they came in, we gave them the list, and they would come in with a group of 16 people, and they would each get a flight, and they would sit down, and one person would, all have the same beer, so they'd have a glass that's empty, and then they'd split the one beer across all the people around so that they each get a taste, and by the end, they're checking everything off, and it's like, at the end of the day, they don't have to drink 16 pints of beer to get through flights of everything. They only had to drink, 4 pints of beer to get through everything. But it brought a lot of people into town. And my push has always been, try to do something with the town at the same time too, to get people walking around town, because that gets more people back into the doors. As also, more people walk out, more people can walk in.
Absolutely.
And it kind of took on almost a life of its own, of people being like, "Ooh, I love that one. Didn't really like this one so much. Play something with that and bring out other stuff." So then we make more styles, keep some new ones, and it kept growing more and more and more and more. Sadly, this year we weren't able to do to top our 54 different stouts that we did the previous year. We only do 16 because we did a different as this time. But it's just a heck of a fun time just writing all these recipes out and putting them through.
I'll tell you one thing. It's a heck of a fun time just sitting there drinking them.
Got to get there this year. Next year.
Absolutely.
Next year. It's already happened.
Next year, yes. Jess's sister is 3 miles away, so it's a beautiful thing. She's
And I've definitely got to get to the brewery prior to that. It's starting to become hiking season. I like to hike out in northwestern Jersey and grab a brew afterwards. So, and Hackettstown is a great stop.
Sure.
And I just noticed all 3 of us are now empty.
Yes.
All 3 of us are empty, yeah. So why don't we pour our second beers?
What was that? Are you having another smoke alarm?
Me? No.
That's my phone.
That was you. Okay.
That was a truck backing up anyway. It wasn't a smoke alarm.
I thought it was a.
But
So,
yeah, what's your next beer? So let's talk about this for a second. What are you drinking? What are you drinking there, Mr. Samurai?
I'm gonna go with the reason I'm wearing the shirt. The source is because it's green, first of all, and I'm going with the source. It is the Winter Saison.
Winter Saison.
This one's 10%, so this is gonna make the show a lot more fun.
Not
that it's not already fun, but this is gonna make it more interesting. And I've just Liz poured the hell out of this thing right off the bat. But this John saved one of these for me, and it is this is gonna be the last show before
spring.
Before spring.
This is the last show of this winter season. Spring is this weekend. So we'll all drink winter beers for this particular one.
I'll drink mine eventually.
You'll drink yours eventually. Why don't you explain to Matt what you mean by Liz pour? So.
Oh yeah, so in Rhode Island, in the beer groups there, one of the people that's most active is R.I. Elizabeth. I think it's R.I. Liz now because I think her account got hacked. But she is famous for not being able to being a little too exuberant when pouring her beers. and it
Hence
became
the term Liz pour. Yeah.
so it's called Liz Pour up in Rhode Island when you do this.
And ironically, she's related to
Yes,
Greg Taylor from Source too, right?
yes, she is.
Yes, she is.
So it was always interesting going through my Facebook feed, seeing a Source beer, and then realizing it's someone from Rhode Island.
Right.
Not one of my Jersey friends.
There you go.
So it was always neck and neck between her and Johnny, who drank more Source.
Well, by the time you get through the foam on there, you'll probably have your own PhD. You can go teach at Stephen.
There we go, and I'm working on it. I'm trying to figure out now with the skull. It looks like his brains are starting to poke out of there.
There you go.
But we got some good. Look at that. Look at the structure.
It's very nice. Nice structure.
Very nice.
That's some good protein.
Like you could definitely write. You could definitely write a doctoral dissertation on that one. I will be drinking a Smug Cabin Fever. It's a
Why did you choose a Smug? Just I'm drinking a Source.
Because you're drinking a Source, and I normally do, and I gave you that Source, and I'm drinking a Smug that you gave me since you normally drink.
Which
it.
I usually drink Smug, but my Smug stash is running out big time.
And
Need
this
to make
is
a run.
This is Cabin Fever. It's a winter lager. It's technically a maple winter lager, correct?
It's maple syrup. I think he just can make maple syrup and told everybody it was beer. And you can probably smell it already.
It's about a foot away from my nose, and I think I can smell it. So I'm actually
Matt might be able to smell it.
I think I can smell it over here.
Oh my god! Oh my god! It's literally. I'm going to save the rest of them. Put in my pancakes tomorrow morning. It smells delicious.
Reduce it a little bit, yeah.
And if you remember back to when we had who was it? We did our top 3 list that we did our favorite adjuncts. Was that Jason from Icarus?
Yes.
Do you remember what my favorite
maple syrup
is? Maple syrup. There you go.
That's why I'm excited to see you taste this beer.
And I'm going to taste it right now. While I taste it, Matt, what are you drinking for your?
So I'm sticking.
Ta-da to winter.
I'm sticking with German styles over here, going with Rammstein Winter Wheat, one of my favorite beers from them.
It's one of their best.
I can't top your 10%, but I'll give you a 9.5.
That's close.
There you go. Only Mr. Winter Wheat, as only Mr. Greg Zaccardi can brew it.
So while he's pouring that, what do you think of the flavor of that?
This is maple syrup.
Told you.
But not in a bad way, though.
Yeah.
It's not cloying. It's not overly sweet. I'm not going to get into like beer notes and everything else like we don't do on a show, but
right. It's that what the grade A maple syrup from Vermont is the darkest.
Yeah.
Grade B.
Grade B. That's right. The darkest and the least sweet.
That's definitely what it is. It's because it's not. It's just the flavor of the maple, and the sweetness I'm getting is just from the flavor. It's not from actual sugars and everything else in the beer.
Yeah.
So, and how's that winter wheat doing?
Oh, it's
Weizen Doppelbock.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I love that's one of my that's probably my favorite Greg Zaccardi beer right there.
Oh,
wheat.
Hands down.
Yeah.
Actually, I forgot to mention earlier during my my whole thing when getting into or deciding that I wanted to go into brewing professionally. I actually volunteered at Rammstein for 3 days and cleaned kegs for them and bottled for them to see if this was the janitorial life that I wanted to live.
There you go.
So few people understand how much of it is just cleaning stuff.
It's just cleaning and cleaning and cleaning and cleaning and cleaning. Well, cheers to winter.
Bye-bye winter.
Bye-bye
Here's
winter.
to the warmer weather.
Spring. Here's to the winter. Here's to the warmer weather. That is really good. It's crazy good.
I've got 4 left.
You've got 4 left. I'll earmark. I'll earmark something for you. Earmark one of those for me, will you?
I'm thinking maybe when if I visit Zig sometime soon, I'll bring one up.
There you go. Yeah, you got to taste this, Matt. So,
this is one of the special beers that came out of that brewery while I was there.
All right, so get back to this. What's the craziest thing you've ever brewed?
Craziest thing I've ever brewed.
While you think about that, Brian
Successful.
says, cheers, guys.
Hey, Brian.
Cheers, Brian.
Successful or not, Matt?
Successful or not, what's the craziest thing, nuttiest thing you've ever brewed?
Successful or not, that actually helps. I attempted, and if anybody at the breweries listening at the moment, they'll be immediately thinking what I'm thinking. I attempted to make a chicken and waffles beer.
Okay.
There has been one.
I know, but this one did not turn out well. I attempted to use actual waffles I made from the week before and chicken bouillon. I don't know
how did the proteins in the bouillon work for you?
But it didn't work.
That's funny because waffles, a lot of the breweries up in Rhode Island collaborate with this place called Burgundian Waffles.
Mm-hmm.
Burgundian Waffles, they've got a truck. They go to all the breweries, and actually Smug, who we're talking about, they just put out one called Red Tracksuit, and it's an Irish
red. Isn't that? And then you just said wow on that too because I liked it before.
Yeah. I sent that to you on Instagram, and it's funny because it's what's the character from Sopranos that's on in the red tracksuit?
It's Paulie Walnuts.
Paulie Walnuts. So they got Paulie Walnuts on the can.
Paulie Walnuts is on the can of this red.
But
tracksuit.
it's an Irish red with waffles and sugar in it.
Irish red, yeah, Irish waffle red or something like that is what he called it. So.
It's a string.
You're gonna have to get in touch with Rob and see if he can send a 4-pack down to Jersey.
Yeah, if you can get in touch with Rob.
I'll try and get in touch with Rob. You know him, I don't, but I'll get in touch with him. So anyway, but so a waffle, chicken and waffles. What was the base beer supposed to be on that?
The base beer was supposed to be kind of an amber-esque, try to give a little bit of caramel note to it.
Right.
It ended up being this like thick, salty something. And we popped it over onto we didn't even want to put it on tap yet, and we just popped a party tap onto the top, and we're like, yeah, let's give a test. And we poured it into the cup, and immediately something was off with the aroma, and we're like,
okay, short straw drinks it.
Yeah. And then we did take a sip of it, and we're like, no. And this was the time when we were still doing, like, we were probably doing what we call forge batches. We were doing probably 3 or 4 a week of just a different recipe that we made up of whether a customer had come up and said, hey, I'm really interested in this style. Can you write a recipe like this? Or can you make something that tastes like this for us and put it through? And we had a little contest going. And but that one, I don't care. I never made another recipe for it. I just said, nope. And then the person was like, oh, where's my chicken and waffles? I'm like, no, we're done.
No, not happening.
I'm not attempting this one. Maybe something else. Maybe if I messed up with, I'll play, but not chicken and waffles.
That's funny. What's the is there something crazy that you've wanted to brew that you haven't brewed, like along those lines?
I've wanted I see everybody out there throwing cereal into everything.
Cereal and then some, yeah.
We talked a little bit about them earlier, John.
A little bit. We had a conversation.
A little bit on the phone.
You and I. Yeah.
There are ideas that I have of making this really nice bowl of cereal style mash that'll work out, but I just haven't put the recipe together and actually said to go forward. Be a heavy kind of almost like a bowl of oatmeal meets Frosted Flakes sort of thing. And
interesting.
I'm more concerned that I'm just going to turn the entire mash tun into a thing of cement. And don't know how the hell I'll get
people walk in the brewery and the ferment will be on its side, angled up and spinning like cement.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, God damn it, I knew it.
But it smells great.
But it smells delicious. Yeah.
Is that Madagascar vanilla?
Yeah.
Is that, yeah? No, that's Hoboken.
Yeah,
that was the Hoboken.
A whole different aroma.
Well, what didn't you? Who did the? Was it Long Live up in Rhode Island?
I was thinking the same thing. The one that
milk, right?
tasted like crunch berries.
Yeah. Yeah,
it tasted exactly like crunch berries. It was insane.
You don't look at what you're drinking. If you close your eyes and tasted it, it was like you were drinking the milk from a bowl of crunch berry cereal.
Mm-hmm.
It was
almost the same color.
Yeah, it was. It had that hue to it. But cool. Well, Yeah, look, we could go on with different styles. I mean, the styles are almost endless at this point, you know.
They are.
And different fests. I would say personally, if you're going to do, you know, all the different fests you're going to do, if you can do if you could do it for me, if you could do an Old Ale Dunkel Doppelbock Fest somewhere in the neighborhood of September, I'll drink most of it for you. So.
Okay, I'll work on that.
There you go.
I know you like Doppelbocks.
Oh yeah,
But
that's my favorite style.
Doppelbock would throw Old Ales and Dunkels in right there for the September-October area, and I'm
You're going to throw an alt in there as well?
throwing all. Yeah, why not? Throwing all.
I'm not talking Brian.
No, I was.
We can throw
him
in
there.
Throw him in the tank.
But,
that'd be a peculiar flavor.
It would be an interesting flavor. I wouldn't want to taste it. I just want to hear about it. That's all. And I'm not sure if I want to hear about it. But anyway.
Now, one thing.
Notice how the Kroll's still going with your Weizenbach.
Yeah.
We hit the 10%. No.
Yeah, right.
Now his is a little. Well, you're around 5-ish.
What, me?
Yeah.
It's 7.
That went to 7. Okay, that's 7.
Yeah.
But the one thing I wanted to bring up, and we touched on it with when we had Chuck on the show, is you got the 3. We talked about earlier on this show how they wanted a brewery. No, we know that there's 2. Even though sometimes people consider Jersey Girl Hackettstown, but we know it's not.
Jersey Girl, which is funny, and I'll just bring
the
this up.
mailing address.
Hold on.
Exactly.
Jersey Girl's mailing address is Hackettstown.
Yep.
Technically, they're in Mount Olive, correct?
Yep.
Okay. And
Bud Lake.
he had. I was going to say, and then what's the Bud Lake section or whatever, and he had. He posted on Facebook the other day they had an activated alarm, and the fire department showed up, and it was a Bud Lake fire truck. So I just thought it was like Hackettstown mailing address, Mount Olive, but the Bud Lake.
Bud Lake.
Yeah. But one thing I always love to see, and I saw this at least 2, maybe 3 times sitting in your brewery. I'll get there a little earlier than everyone, so it's quiet. And you and Joe are sitting off at a table by yourselves. And I don't know if you're writing recipes, what you're doing, you're collaborating on something. And it's just because he's a block and a half away?
He is exactly a block away from the brewery.
Exactly a block away from the brewery. So it's just really neat when you have 2 breweries that close to each other that get along that well. So what do you guys you're collaborating on recipes? What do you?
Probably 75% of the time, we just don't want to talk about beer. So
I get that.
I was going to say, I'm sure they're probably
we're
not talking about beer.
But we're not necessarily talking. We're talking about the ups and downs of owning a brewery and just trying to sit back and relax and not have to worry about the daily grind and stuff like that.
Well, that's what Chuck said. It was it's collaboration, cooperation, and commiseration.
And commiseration. There you go. And speaking of Jersey Girl and their location, Chuck Aaron just said they cover all the bases at Jersey Girl. So.
There he is. Speak of him, and he shall appear.
Cheers, Chuck.
There you go. Cheers, Chuck.
Cheers, Chuck. We didn't even say his name 3 times.
There you go. No, that's something else.
Oh, that's Augie. Yeah.
That's 1. Don't say it again.
Oh, it's 1.
So anyway, continue. So you were saying the whole thing between the 3 of you and Joe around the corner, obviously, and then Chuck down the road. How was it? We talked to Chuck about this when he was on. What'd you say? Collaboration,
commiseration, cooperation,
collaboration,
and a little bit of competition.
Friendly. I call it co-opetition. I've called it for years.
Yeah, he's coined the phrase.
It's definitely friendly competition. I mean, competition makes everybody better at the end of the day. So, there's always, trying to one-up each other on everything. But and just the other day, Chuck was down over at the brewery. Like you say, you see us hanging out together on the side. One of the guys that works up at Jersey Girl told Chuck, he's like, you got to get out of here. You're going to be here till 9 o'clock if you don't. Get down. We're going to go have a beer over at Czig. And he comes down, we're sitting over by the window just chatting about, nothing, just hanging out, grabbing a beer. Like we're just random people in a brewery. And it just happens to be, we're both brewers and we're in my brewery. But,
right.
But that's how, it kind of takes us away from the day to day and kind of puts us into the life of a normal person hanging at a brewery, because we never really had that. One of my biggest things that my friends tell me all the time is like, what's the biggest thing you hate about owning a brewery? And I'd say that every time that I drink a beer, the first thing I do when I take a sip is I judge every little aspect of it because I can't help it.
Right.
And
Sure.
part of me just wants to be able to take that piece away from it. And I feel like sometimes if I sit down with Joe or I sit down with Chuck, we just start talking about anything other than a brewery, it kind of helps break that. So, and just detach from reality.
And I've seen that in action. I think one of the first New Jersey breweries tap takeovers back when they had it up at the tap house in Wayne, long time ago. I'm sitting off to the side, and I'm a buddy with me, and your old boss, Mike. He comes over. We start talking, and he walks away. My friend looks at me and goes, "You guys didn't mention anything about beer." I'm like, yeah, and I won't do that to him because he's spending the whole night talking about beer. I'll talk to him about everything else except beer just to give him a break.
Sure.
Right?
That's, you definitely have to do that.
Yeah.
And Chuck just said Matt's a great drinking partner, so there you go. Cheers, Matt, being a great drinking partner.
Cheers, Matt.
So, all right, speaking of drinking, when do we hit our top threes at the moment?
If we hit our top threes, I got to finish what I'm drinking to get into the top threes.
Why do you have to do that?
Well, because I'm drinking it out. Well, there's a few. Well, not because of the beer itself, because of the glass I'm drinking it out of.
Yeah, down that 10%.
I'll just put this aside.
Okay. We could talk a little more if you'd rather finish that.
Got anything else, Matt?
Yeah.
Oh wait, I got the New York Times here. Let's see what else is going on. No.
Okay, 3 across, 5-letter word for
7-letter word for brewing. I'm just threw it out there.
Zimmergees.
Zimmergees, plural. Zimmergee plural.
Yes, it's sick.
Anyway. No, okay. Let's move on to our top threes. Actually, you know what? I just wanted to bring this one thing up because Matt, as you know, we also do Lager Room, not Dave, myself, and Radio Pete and Harry Lugnuts. We do a sports podcast on Wednesday nights. Here's something tying it together. It was a report I was just reading Brewbound before. Saucy Brew Works in Cleveland. Cool brewery, nice space. Saucy. They announced yesterday or today that they are in complete support of the Indians changing their name to the Municipals. The Cleveland Municipals.
Well, I don't know if that's any better or worse than Washington football team.
Yeah, the Cleveland Municipals. I'm not sure how that. I don't know.
Why would a brewery chime in on that?
I don't know. I read the first 2 or 3 paragraphs, and it really didn't say as to why they were getting on board, or if there was any particular reason for it. But I'm sure there is. I just didn't continue to read the article beforehand. But in any event, yeah, the Cleveland Municipals. I'm not sure if I get behind that. The Cleveland Boroughs. The
Donkeys. Okay.
The Donkeys. Well, boroughs in that respect would even be
different
make more sense. Yeah, the Cleveland Villagers. That would even make more sense.
Lakers is already taken, so they can't do that.
They can't do Lakers. Lakers, right?
The Cleveland Burning River.
The Cleveland Burning River. The Cleveland Cuyahogas. There you go.
The Cuyahogas. There you go.
The Cleveland Cuyahogas.
Which was the tribe in the area. There's another tribe that was in the area though, and my ex-wife is actually part of that tribe, and I always thought it was a joke name for a tribe.
Mm-hmm.
But it's actually apparently a real tribe, the Potawatomi.
Potawatomi?
It really sounds like that's made up, doesn't it?
Potawatomi?
Yeah, Potawatomi.
Potawatomi.
Yeah, it's Potawatomi. It's almost... It rolls, right?
It rolls, Potawatomi.
Potawatomi. But I always thought it was like the Fagawi. You've heard of the Fagawi tribe.
The Fagawi, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
They get lost all the time.
They say we're the Fagawi.
We're the Fagawi. They're proud about it, at least.
At least on F-Trip it was the Hackawis.
Hackawis, yes.
Hackawis,
We're the
yeah.
Hackawis.
We're the Hackawis.
So that sound denotes the fact
so
that I
sound,
have my third.
That sound is you're opening your third beer. So, okay, so that is what you needed to do in order to get to the top threes.
And the reason I wanted to do it to get to the top threes.
Are
you going to do your spiel?
I'll throw the beer on there first. And
yeah,
why don't you announce what it is, and then I'll do the spiel.
Then you can do the spiel. But the reason It's just because it came in the same 6-pack as the Madagascar Vanilla and Orange.
There you go.
And it's just wonderful. This is the toasted coconut and coffee stout. I want to save this for last because this is going to be like dessert.
Your dessert.
And if you remember in the top 3 adjuncts, what was my favorite?
Top 3 adjuncts was coconut.
Coconut. So there we go.
Absolutely.
But what I've poured it into is
A Guinness glass.
and you can see I've got now my pennant hanging up there.
Your Guinness pennant hanging behind you. Yes, there you go.
And why am I bringing up Guinness, John?
And you're bringing up Guinness because our top 3 list tonight is top 3 favorite beers to drink for St. Patrick's Day. There you go.
That aren't named Guinness.
That aren't named Guinness.
Oh
There you
my.
go.
Okay, Matt.
We didn't put that on. We didn't put that on the post today that we were going to do it that way. But top 3 favorite beers to drink for St. Patrick's Day that aren't Guinness. So
Matt, I am.
something tells me
this
none
is
of us were
delicious.
going to pick Guinness anyway. But just in case, hey,
No, I would have. No, I absolutely would have.
you would have picked Guinness.
Yeah, no, because as I told you, there's a tradition on St. Patrick's Day which is being
sure.
revived this year,
Mhm.
which is to do car bombs, and
Sure.
so
Well, there you go.
you
Well,
need
there you
Guinness
go.
for that. But this
All right.
beer, I would not desecrate this beer with a car bomb.
I don't think you could do that. I
You
don't think
could.
do
You
that. Well,
can. No, you.
Well, you
you
could, but I really don't think you could. Yeah,
Is that
you
a
could.
challenge?
Well, you have another candidate, right?
I got
Give it
2
a
more
try.
cans of it.
There you go.
But this is wow. This is really, really good.
So, all right. So, in honor of our special guest tonight, Matt, why don't you go first with your top 3 favorite beers to drink for St. Patty's Day?
So my top 3 has changed over the past few
Hour.
years. Not the past hour, over the past few years, and it's mostly just due to the fact that we have 3 breweries in the area. My typical go-to on St. Patrick's Day, and I just love the fact that it's it falls on a day that Manskirt happens to be open, is he makes Rose Madder Irish Red for the St. Patrick's Day time, and his stout and his porter I think are fantastic. So
His porter is amazing.
Yeah, the
so
porter's,
typically I take the
porter's
day
pretty
off
tasty.
and I go over and I get trashed off of Joe's beer.
I tell Joe every time
Well,
I see him that
you
his
live-
porter is the most portery porter I've ever had.
It's the most portery
It's,
porter ever.
one would say that it might be great.
It could be great.
There you go.
What's the name of that beer again?
I
you
don't
call
remember.
That'd be the Great Porter.
Great porter. So,
Great
and you know what? If you live 5
People
blocks from
for the
your brewery, you're only 6 blocks from Joe's. So there you go.
Actually,
You're,
4
Yeah.
blocks. It's closer to my house.
oh, you're close.
you're
to
the-
Joe.
yeah.
Okay. Gotcha.
You have to walk past his brewery to get home.
I do. Which
That
usually makes
sucks.
it an interesting night.
It's a bad thing, right?
It's closed, but I'll push the door open anyway and walk.
There you go. Joe, give him a key. Go in and drink. Ahead. Have fun.
Go into the vault.
You have to go into the vault of beer. Folks, if you don't know, Joe, we're referring to Manskirt, which is around the corner, and it's in an old bank, hence the vault. So,
Was the bank ever an option for you, Matt?
It actually was. We had looked at it before. My bigger thing was I had hopes on a larger brewery than I know that Joe's was looking at. And for me, having a basement below the brewery wasn't going to be able to work. For him, with the size tanks that he wanted to go with, he could put the lolly columns underneath the tanks and be able to make it work. That's what he's doing right now. But for me, I couldn't put 30-barrel tanks onto that floor.
And I'm sure after watching what he went through with those floors, you're probably quite happy you passed.
Yes.
so
you're so number 2 of your 3,
So-
or is that all 3 of them?
Well, I mean, number 1 is always, that beer that I go over and Joe just says, "Hey, you need a beer?" And here you go.
There you go.
Number 2 would probably be, I'd love Sam Smith's Oatmeal Stout.
Okay.
Typically,
That's
my a go-to of mine.
but the Irish would probably have a problem with you drinking a British beer on St.
English beer
Patrick's
on
Day.
St.
They might. I don't.
You don't. These are his 3 favorite
I
beers.
know,
to
I'm
drink
just
on
saying.
St. Patty's-
I'm just saying.
Not the Irish three.
It's not the 3 favorite Irish beers to drink on St. Patrick's Day.
I'm both British. I'm both British and Irish.
He could-
Irish. I've got to kick my ass every now
He
and
could
then.
pick Peroni. It doesn't matter. It's his favorite
My
beer to
third
drink.
beer isn't a fan of the Irish either because it's also Young's Double Chocolate.
Oh, that is a lovely beer.
It is good. That's a good beer. So, all right, Mr. Samurai, why don't you give us yours?
I'm going to go straight up classic to begin with.
Go for it.
John, you know I really went back and forth on the third one for
Okay.
a while, but I got to go straight up classic and go with the Smittix. You know, it was either Smittix or Murphy's Irish Stout, but I got to go with Smittix because I've already, we've got a stout on here already.
Mm-hmm.
Number 2, and this is from my year of exile in Rhode Island. Ravenous Brewing, their red, and I forgot the name of the red. I was supposed to look that up before the show, but they've got a name for it. No. Let Brian do his job. Put your phone down, John. Let Brian do his job. He can look it up. Ravenous.
Yeah, but I checked it in because I've had it, so I can get to it easy. So
yeah, that's true. But we got to make Brian do his job. But at any rate, they've got a red, and it really is a fantastic red. One of the best reds I've ever had. And so that's number 2. Number 1 is something that's near to my heart for a few reasons. 1, I love the story behind it. 2, I've got a 2-tap kegerator, and it's one of the first 2 beers on there. The other being Boat, and if you've watched the show at all, I drink more Boat than I should. And that's Port Omna. Cane's Port Omna. I love the story behind it because Mike named it after the town that his family's from in Ireland, and it was I wanted to have a hoppy beer and I wanted to have a stout on tap for the first time on my kegerator. So Port Omna was one of those, and it's just a fantastic dry stout. Now one of my favorite in that style.
gotcha.
So that's my number 1.
There's your number 1. All right. I just did a little checking. The red that I had that I keep referring to is French Quarter Red.
That's it.
There you go.
That's the one.
Bienvenue, French Quarter Red.
Bienvenue, French Quarter Red.
Yep. There it is, right there. Never mind, you can't see it.
You can't. Yeah, there's too much glare off of that.
Nope.
But in any event, my 3.
No, your 3.
My 3. My number 3 was going to be Smittix. But I'm going back and forth. Overall, for red ale, probably over all the years, I've probably had more Smittix on St. Paddy's Day than anything else. But lately, one of the reds that I've been drinking is local, and you went Cane, right near Carton, Red Rye Returning. I've been.
You're within 8 minutes of Carton, right?
Oh no! Carton's about 24 minutes away. So Carton's a little bit further than Source, but still not under a half an hour I can get there. But in any event, yeah. So Red Rye Returning. It's a rye ale, but it's a red rye ale, and I've been drinking that over the last several years on St. Paddy's Day. So it's a current one, if you will. Smittix is always there. In fact, I probably wind up having a couple tomorrow. But in any event, Red Rye Returning. My number 2 is another a red ale. It's Great Lakes Brewing in Cleveland. Cleveland again.
It's a
Here we
good
go.
beer.
Conway's Irish Ale. It's one of the best beers I think that Great Lakes makes. Their Irish Red.
We talked about this. I think they make 3 great beers. That, Dortmunder, and Edmund Fitzgerald.
Edmund Fitzgerald, yeah. Those are my top 3
Right.
Great Lakes.
Yeah, Dortmund is probably my favorite.
Yeah, Dortmunder, Edmund Fitzgerald, and Conway's are my 3 favorite Great Lakes. But Conway's Irish Ale. It's not even Irish Red. They call it Irish Ale.
I actually even mentioned them earlier when I said Burning River because that's one of their beers.
There you go. Yeah, it is. And it's actually they named it one of the partners, one of the owners, one of the co-owners of Great Lakes actually named it after the grandfather's Conway. He was I think he was a cop in Cleveland or nearby or something like that, and he was always a big Irish Red beer drinker on St. Patrick's.
Hopefully it wasn't the Heights.
Something like that. Somewhere in that realm of a story. I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but and my number 1 lately, and for a while now, actually, it's hard to get down.
Celebration by Sierra Nevada.
Absolutely. Yeah, well, it's red, right? I mean, come on.
It's kind of red.
It's
got a red
extra
tinge.
left over from Christmas. So no. Harpoon Brewing, Boston Dry Irish Stout. It's actually one of my favorite dry Irish stouts. There's a bunch of dry Irish stouts that are.
And we can get that down here.
You know what? Once in a blue moon, no pun intended.
Yeah.
But for the most part,
that Belgian beer, right?
Right. For the most part, I've actually only had it in Boston. But normally, I'm in Boston in February every year, and I bring a couple of growlers of it back with me for St. Patrick's Day. This year, I was not in Boston in February so I was not able to bring it back. So, I always get over to Harpoon over there, and they have actually last few years actually did is it the Crake or the Crack? Some people I think it's the Crake. Some people call it the Crack. Not quite sure why, but I think it's the Crake Irish Red IPA. They made an Irish Red IPA. It's actually not bad. It's actually pretty tasty. But to me, something hoppy like that, even Carton's Red Rye Returning is not as hoppy as that. So it's, to me, an Irish Red needs to be a little bit more malty and on the sweet side than the bitter side. But those are my three: Carton Red Rye Returning, Great Lakes Conway's Irish Red, and Harpoon's Boston Dry Irish.
And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention how I came across these beers. They were this is a business model that I think someone needs to explore this, but it's Gorgeous Redhead Delivery Service.
Gorgeous Redhead Delivery Service.
Yeah, I really think that'd be a great way for people to get beer.
Gorgeous Redhead Delivery Service.
Yeah, Gorgeous Redhead pulls up to your door and hands you beer.
Where
Matt could be part of it.
over.
There you go. Gorgeous Redhead Delivery Service. Prerequisite: Redhead.
There you go.
Second prerequisite: gorgeous.
Yes.
There you go.
And they
Third
have
prerequisite: have a car.
Have a car.
Got all three. You're qualified. Done. You're hired.
Good. You're good. Good to go.
I'm kind of iffy on the driving record. The first two.
Unimportant.
It depends on how red your hair is and how gorgeous they are.
Yeah,
that's
a sliding scale.
You can slide scale the driving record. So, as long as they actually physically have their license, they're good to go.
But I think we got a business model going there.
I think we can work on that. We should work on that. So
we'll talk about this later.
Yeah,
off book. We'll have to work on that, and we don't want to give away too many trade secrets.
No.
Yeah, exactly.
So anyway, but well, you know what? This has been great. I'm glad you can come on the show.
Absolutely.
We've been we've penciled in so many people. This is actually our 26th show, so we've been doing this exactly 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
And so you made it to the first half of the first year. You got in under the gun,
and you weren't penciled in.
You weren't penciling in. We have a wish list. We have okay, boom, 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 and we just when Dave was up in Rhode Island, we had a bunch from up there as well, guests wise, and
didn't get to them all, but
we didn't get to them all. We'll get to a few others, and we're gonna actually start expanding it out. We have a few other jerseys coming up over the next couple weeks, and we're gonna expand it down to out to Colorado, down to Florida, out to the Midwest. And some other arms of the industry as well. Not just, we've had John Hall on.
Yep.
So we'll have some other beer writers, some store owners, craft beer
other
store
aspects
owners,
of the industry.
Is not just brewers and everything else. So, but yeah, so
nothing wrong with brewers, mind you, but
absolutely. They're 80% of who's going to come on are brewers, obviously, or brewery owners. But,
and it's about 80% of the people we know.
Pretty much.
So it goes hand in hand.
You got to start with that. So
we spend more time hanging around breweries than anywhere else.
This is true. This is very true.
Except maybe my own place.
Well, you work from home at the moment, so obviously
there's that.
Do anything besides that. So anyway, so Matt, don't go anywhere. We're gonna, when we end the show, we're gonna stay on this. We'll chat for a bit. But once again, thanks for coming on. Really appreciate you giving the time tonight to come on the show.
Absolutely.
See you, man. Cheers for that.
Cheers.
Absolutely. But yeah, we'll definitely at some point have you back again. And then Chuck has actually brought up too a couple times that we should do a town hall type thing. I think I mentioned it to you when I was up by you.
Yeah.
Do like a town hall thing with the two of you and Joe. That should be interesting. With something prevalent we can talk about and everything else. That whether it just pertains to Hackettstown or North Jersey or the beer industry in general or whatever. But that would be kind of cool. So I
And
like that idea.
that would be that'd be a fun thing to do live.
Yeah, well, you know what?
And
Since they're right there,
I think Zig's Beer Garden would be the only place we could possibly hold that.
I think that might be,
Why
have to
not?
be something somewhere in there.
Somewhere in
like
there.
that. Why the hell not? So
Yeah, we want to
Anyway.
eventually take this on the road.
yeah, we'll do. We're gonna do some remotes. We've done one so far. At Source a few weeks ago, we did a short video. We edited it together, but we want to do actually a couple of actual shows from on location, so to speak. So we will get into that.
Those will probably not be on Tuesday nights
Those will not be on Tuesdays. Those will be on the weekends. So
because those will get stupid.
they'll get a little stupid, yeah. So, but in any event, well, once again, like I said, hang out. Thanks for coming on the show. We'll wrap up the show for today on that note. We want to thank everybody for watching. And for those of you just listening to the audio podcast, thanks for listening. Don't forget to visit our website, www.lageroom.com. That's LAGERROOM.com. And please remember, like us and follow us on all of our social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and our YouTube channel. All of them are at The Lager Room. Remember, we go live with the video podcast on both Facebook and YouTube every Tuesday night at 6:30. For those of you that want to just listen to the audio podcast, you can do so on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, TuneIn, and Stitcher. And if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to one or more of those feeds, and you will never miss a show. Again, thanks for following along with us. Have a wonderful rest of your week. Have a great St. Patty's Day tomorrow.
And a safe one.
And a safe St. Patty's Day tomorrow.
Because remember, it is amateurs night out there, folks.
It is amateurs night. So
Don't be caught
safe.
up in it.
And not only be safe normally, from drink responsibly, but be safe. You still got to wear the masks, folks. Don't get too
still out
silly
there.
tomorrow.
What do we? I think we said every show for the first 5 or 6 shows.
Wear the damn mask.
At one point I think we had drank enough that we said wear the fucking mask, but
Right.
yeah, we try to keep it R-rated, not
WTDM. Wear the damn mask.
Wear the damn mask.
But be safe tomorrow in a lot of respects. Enjoy yourself though, and have a great weekend also. And we will see you next week, folks. Take care.
Sláinte.
Sláinte.
They found face down in his waffles, maple syrup dripping from his fake robe. Who did he see when he heard who was there? Now it seems that he shit out of love. This little piggy went to market. This little piggy stayed home. This little piggy's eating corned beef in the back of a Ford Pinto.